Then I'd like to add another stock which has been also consistent in terms of giving out dividends. It's a holding company. However, I think it's highly connected also on how Semirara performs. I'm talking about DMC, and at a stock price of 12.5 pesos per share, its dividend yield is around 9.6%, which is pretty decent. And if you remember me, my threshold is it has to be above 5%. So the higher and the further you are from 5% from a dividend yield perspective, I think the better it would actually be. In this video, I want to give you additional dividend stocks that you may consider and you may look at, which is on top of the other dividend stocks that I've given out over the past few years as well. As you all know, we've talked a lot about Globe, PLDT, Meralco, REITs, from A-REIT to F-REIT to C-REIT to RCR, which have given a good steady amount of passive income and cash flow from the dividends. But I've gotten a lot of questions about what about the other dividend stocks that are out there as well. The first batch of dividend stocks that I've mentioned are things that I really like and are part also of what I've been tracking over the past few years. Now, I want to expand this list, but please do note also, and please do take a lot of time to be able to research this. A couple of things that you need to look at also in terms of dividend investing is you have to spend a lot of time in terms of, number one, the business itself, how sustainable the dividends will be, because dividends are pretty much dependent on how the business is performing and how much excess funds they have also, because at the end of the day, if it's just like a one-time earning for them, or it's a revenue stream that's something that's not sustainable, then it will impact its ability to give you also dividends. And you all know this, the name of the game for dividend investing is you want to buy them, build volume on them, and just hold on to them as long as they're giving you a good amount of dividends. So the ones that I've mentioned, from Globe to PLDT, from Meralco, and even the REITs that we've talked about over the past few years, I believe they have been pretty consistent. It's just that for some of them also, because they have gone up in terms of price, the dividend yield also has been hit or has changed. And the higher your cost of acquisition, the lower the yields that you would get as well. Hence, I'm expanding the list so that you guys have a larger set of companies and stocks that you may also research on and also analyze as well. But again, as what I've always said also, please don't buy just because I talked about it here. Please do your own due diligence and research, and also please set your own parameters on what would cost you to buy them also later on. First things first, but I've been mentioning this also in some of the videos where I talked about dividends, is LTG, which from the time of this recording and a stock price of 10.36, it's pretty much giving you a forward dividend yield of 13.59%, followed by GMA7, which at the time of this recording is at 12.48, and it's still giving you a very high dividend yield of 11.79%. A couple of years back, when ABS-CBN closed down and GMA7 became #1 network here in the Philippines, its stock price was way below 10. That means those people who bought it at 6, 7, 8 pesos per share, their dividend yields are much higher. That's why there's merit in holding stocks that give out dividends, because if the company is really good, they would earn more, the stock price also would increase, so you have not just capital appreciation, but your dividend yield also would be massively higher. So imagine those that bought at 6, at 5, at 7, at 8 right now, their dividend yield for sure is more than 11.79% already. Then I'd like to add another stock which has been also consistent in terms of giving out dividends. It's a holding company. However, I think it's highly connected also on how Semirara performs. I'm talking about DMC, and at a stock price of 12.5 pesos per share, its dividend yield is around 9.6%, which is pretty decent. And if you remember me, my threshold is it has to be above 5%. So the higher and the further you are from 5% from a dividend yield perspective, I think the better it would actually be. Next is SPC. This was high up in my list a couple of years back, but they've slashed dividends that they have been giving out. As of this recording, the stock price is 9.24 pesos per share, but it's still giving out 8.11%, which is pretty decent, but not as high as where we were a couple of years back. Another one that I'd like to add is Nickel Asia. At a stock price of 6.83%, their forward dividend yield is around 6.58% also. And I want to say this, that if you're at the point in your life that you don't need to touch the dividends yet, you don't need to use the cash flow yet for anything, take the dividends and reinvest it and buy the same stocks. Again, that's where you have the power of compounding working for you. That's where it becomes ultra massive already when you get free money from dividends. That's income. You can take that and reinvest it. But of course, if you're older and you need the cash flow, you need it to live, take it and use that passive income for life. But if not, reinvest it and see the power of compounding work on your behalf. I want to add RFM also to the list. As of this recording, the stock price is 3.69 pesos per share. The percentage is about 6.52%. Next is you could add Shang Properties. I think we're 3 years detached already from the first lockdown. I think travel would be bigger. More people would be traveling. There would be revenge travel going on as well. If you look at it from that perspective, at a stock price of 2.56 pesos per share, and with the economy opening up, more people traveling, and there could be revenge travels as well, Shang would give you a forward dividend yield of around 6.45%. Next one is the Philippine Stock Exchange. I'm not talking about the index, but I'm talking about the PSE as a company. Its stock price right now is 179 pesos per share. Forward dividend yield is about 6.11%. So how does the PSE make money? Every time money is raised in the PSE via an SRO, an IPO, or every transaction that you make in the PSE, they also make money as well. So imagine this, more volume in the PSE, or at least steady transactions in the PSE, they would make money as well. And their dividends right now, forward dividends, is at 6.11%. I think I want to add two more. I've mentioned this in previous videos because they've also been consistent in giving out dividends. Concepcion Industries, CIC, they make refrigerators and air conditioners. At a stock price of 16.88 pesos per share, their dividend yield is about 5.92%. And lastly, Cebu Landmasters. I've mentioned this also before, no, as a company that has given out dividends, but right now at 2.65 pesos per share, their dividend yield at 5.79% is still above my 5% threshold. So those are 10 dividend stocks that you may add to study and at least reference in how you would try to look at dividend investing. LTG, GMA7, DMC, SPC, Nickel Asia, RFM, Shang Properties, the Philippine Stock Exchange, Concepcion, CIC, and lastly, Cebu Landmasters. So the more that's in your list, also the more time you have to take also to be able to research and study them. But I think what's good about studying and researching is it adds a level of conviction also, and you will actually know also what you want to at least double down on because you've spent a lot of time to actually learn it and study it as well. So there, key points also is that the higher the price that you buy it, it increases your cost of acquisition, hence reducing your dividend yield. So you have to be sensitive about that, and you have to set a specific percentage that you would want to pencil in if you're buying this stock because you want it to at least be above this dividend yield as well. If it's lower, you don't need to get into it anymore. And I highly suggest also, if you don't need the money, to just reinvest it, because that's what makes compounding very, very strong. That's what makes investing very, very strong, and that's what makes it very, very special. That when you invest from the context of you want your money to compound from the dividends that you have as well. Put in your questions down below if you guys have any. If you guys have any other suggestions on topics about dividends, because you all know I'm a big fan of dividend investing, put them down below as well, and I'll do my best to be able to create new content about dividend investing for you guys. If you've noticed it also, what's nice about dividend investing is that you don't have to worry about how the performance of the stock price would be, as long as the dividends that they'll be giving you is something that's consistent and hits the target that you actually want to get as well. So there, I hope you guys got a lot from this. This is Marvin Germo. I hope this video helps you trade well, trade strong, trade smart. See you all again soon, and God bless you.